Okay, class, so we are going to go over our project. So this is your project is worth 10% of your grade. And let's start with our overview. So you're going to select a data set. I'm going to post some options for you. They should be available by the time this video is actually available. Um, or you can find a data set. Now, the data sets that I post, there'll be a data set and a little background on how that data was collected and what it's about. But you will, no matter what, have to go out and do some of your own research to give some additional background on that topic. So choose a topic that you're interested in. You will have to do a journal search, so you can go to the library and do that. You have access to scientific journals. You will need at least one scientific journal article. You're going to submit that to me as part of your project proposal. And then once you've done some research, you need to come up with an appropriate hypothesis. Now, for the data sets that I provide to you, that should be somewhat straightforward from the setup that I give you. But if you choose your own data set, you may have some trouble with that, and you're welcome to come get help from me. Next, you have to conduct data analysis on the data set. Remember, before we do any analysis, we need to do a box plot and a normality plot to check for outliers. It's not specifically put here, but for any sort of hypothesis test, you do need to make sure that our assumptions are met for whichever type of test you're going to run. And then I expect to see some graphical displays such as a histogram. You could have a scatter plot. You could have some other plots depending on the type of data that you have. But I expect there to be some graphical displays in addition to the box plot and normality plot. Then you're going to have to calculate a confidence interval for the population mean and a z-test or t-test depending on what's appropriate for the data set that you have for the population mean. You're going to summarize your findings and draw conclusions. Those conclusions can include what research should be done next, or if maybe you got a borderline outcome that wasn't quite significant but pretty close, maybe suggest some things that we should do in that situation. And you, of course, need to include a bibliography/works cited section. Now, for the data that I provide you, I don't need a works cited on the data that's provided. I need that bibliography works cited for the research that you do. All right, so we have some deadlines. You may want to take notes of these and put them in your calendar. We're going to be going through these with the rest, but this may be an important slide you kind of want to have printed out somewhere. Okay, so project proposal. This is worth 15 points of the overall grade. It should be a statement of your chosen topic and the data set if it's not one that I provided. A PDF of at least 1 to 3 scientific journal articles related to the topic selected, and a works cited bibliography page. So I need both of those things. And a background summary. So what that means is you turned in these journals. Give me 1 to 3 paragraphs where you summarize what you found in those journals. So you actually have to read them and write about them. Now, this is sort of a rough draft of what I expect for your introduction and background in your final project. So this doesn't have to be perfectly polished, but it should be moderately well written, right? Capital first letter, periods at the end of your sentences, things like that. The next deadline is, let's go back. So that deadline is Tuesday, November 6th at 11:59 p.m. So that's next Tuesday. Make sure you're working on this over the weekend. I don't expect this to take an extravagant amount of time, but if you've never read a journal article, it may be something that you need to spend a little bit more time doing. If you're struggling with this, come see me on Monday during office hours and I can help you. And that's due on Tuesday before midnight. Let's go back to here. All of these sections will have a separate submission assignment in Blackboard that will become available on this Friday. if not before. Okay, data analysis. So this section, you need a clearly stated hypothesis, which really you should be coming up with on the previous section, but you may not have. So this is something we're going to talk more about next week and how to come up with these. It's why I'm not making you turn it in with your topic choice. Here you're going to have already started your data analysis, including your graphical displays. So this part you could start on now. And you could start on your confidence interval calculations. You can't yet start on this third bullet point, which is the test of hypothesis, because we're learning about that next week. So we'll talk about how to do this next week, and after class on Monday, you should be able to do that step. And that's due on 11/15 or November 15th at 11:59 p.m. Again, in Blackboard, that'll be open. I'll open all of the sections this Friday. Final presentation submission. So this is due, the final deadline for this is November 29th, which is the Thursday before your final exam, right? I want this turned in and then focus your that weekend studying for your finals. So you get 10 points just for putting it in an appropriate format. Those two options are poster format, which should be submitted as a PDF. Do not print your poster. Or a PowerPoint format is also fine. 10 points for your introduction, background, and hypothesis. So this is a polished version of what you turn in next week. Your data analysis. Here, I don't actually need your calculations like I needed when you turned it in before. I just want a summary of your results and a description of the methods that you used. So you should tell me what test you performed and the outcome. And then 15 points for conclusions and interpretation. So this is where you take your data analysis results, interpret your results, and then draw conclusions and potentially make suggestions for future research. And you get 5 points for an appropriate bibliography / works cited page. And then 15 points for overall appeal. So this means, did you use correct grammar? Did the order of the presentation make sense? You shouldn't put your bibliography at the beginning. You shouldn't put your conclusions at the beginning, right? We should see everything in order. And then is it visually appealing and interesting, or did you just make this plain text, nothing very exciting? So, for example, this presentation that I just put together is not super exciting, right? So you might lose a couple points if this is what you had. I have no pictures in this, so that might lose you some points. Okay? So that should take care of the bulk of it. So just a couple more things. You have a bonus opportunity. You have two bonus opportunities. One, if you submit the completed project by Tuesday, 11/20 at 11:59 p.m. That's Tuesday night before Thanksgiving break. You get 5 bonus points added onto your grade just for turning it in early. And then you get 5 bonus points if you find your own data set and have it approved. So that approval process happens with your project proposal. If you get a data set, submit it, and I say no, we'll have a conversation about what you need to do to proceed. But probably if you pick in your own data set, it should get approved. Okay. So a few other things. Late projects will lose 10% per calendar day, and no projects will be accepted after the final exam. So you have to have it turned in before your final exam, or I'm not grading it. You should have it turned in by your due date, because there's no reason to lose extra points just for turning this in late. Do not procrastinate. Pay attention to deadlines. Put them in a planner or a calendar. Come see me if you're struggling with any aspect of this project, and choose a topic that's interesting to you. It will make it more fun. All right. So any questions or comments we can discuss on Monday, or you can set up an appointment with me on Zoom.